Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Toku Portal podcast for Kamen Rider Zero-One. I'm Vashi V, and joining me today is.
Rye.
And zero.
Welcome to Kamen Rider Zero-One episode 20. In this episode, we conclude the house selling challenge. Now, during the flower arrangement challenge, the Zaya representative cheated, and Thouser wasn't okay with that and had them redo the challenge. This time, the Zaya representative cheats, and Thouser is just kind of okay with that.
And it kind of doesn't make any sense because, he openly knows that he cheated.
Yeah.
Because, he showed up to beat his ass while he was just trying to. When he destroyed the house.
Right. I think at this point, Thouser is just like, fuck this guy. He's not worth my time. Let me just win this thing. Right? Like, as long as he's in the lead, I don't give a shit. Which is annoying because that kind of like compromises his. I was gonna say morals, but I'm like, at this point, like.
Well,
does
yeah,
guy
that
even
whole
have
whole
it?
thing about his public image of like, no, I don't want our company to be known as the people who won by cheating.
Right. But the thing is, this time, like, nobody would know.
Oh, it's not even that. I think honestly, what this was is he was already winning, and literally the only way that they would win is if they sold the guy 500 million yen house, and that's not what they were doing.
That's a good
So it was a matter because through that there was no way that they would win the challenge. So the cheating was kind of a moot point because you basically just kick somebody when they were down is basically all he did.
Yeah, that's a good point because like that's the only like way I can rationalize it is because like Bowser is like, hey, you already proved you were winning. Now you're kind of just securing your win, but like you're already in the lead, so maybe that's why he's letting it slide. But yeah, it's weird. Like everything else in this episode is pretty solid. I mean, like the realtor guy is still like a fucking asshole. But besides that point, like everything else in the episode, and the carpenter robot, that dude's weird. Um,
Was the greatest part of this episode too.
I don't know about that, but
Wait, you didn't like the Sentai Formans?
okay, that was okay, right? That joke made it kind of work, but like everything else, I'm like, this guy has to be a reference to fucking something, right? Like you don't make a character like this.
I'm pretty sure everything that this show references is as I dubbed it with Rise, old school fucking Showa Sentai.
Well, I was going with that, but I was like, maybe this is like super parodying like DIY shows. I don't know. I mean, it's fucking Japan, so of course they've gotta have them too. But like, probably not like North America where there's entire networks for this shit. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's probably a reference to something. But yeah, it's like the carpenter dude especially. It's like that's like way too fucking show off right there.
Okay, so the challenge comes down to the rich Jew that wants a new home, and he has a budget of 500 million. And so whichever group sells him the house will effectively win the contest. So, how do you feel about the challenge coming down to like this one guy whose budget is so high that it pretty much makes a lot of what they did prior to this day meaningless?
It did, but it didn't because of how this episode plays out, monetarily. You only get the 500 million if you sell them a 500 million house. If you sell them a $30 million house, you're not getting a 500 million. So it still comes down to everything. Everything they did prior to this still balances towards the final total. Because it wasn't so much, despite the way they made it seem, it's not the number of houses you sell, but the profit you were making. Despite every infographic being single digits.
Yeah, that was stupid. But Vash is right. Like the end goal is how profitable you were, so it makes sense. As for this one guy being the final thing, yeah, the money. Okay, honestly, it would have annoyed me more had he just been like, typical like evil business character dude who's like, I'm just here for the money. Sell me the most expensive house you can and like cater to all my whims. And I'd be like, that's so fucking bullshit. But that's not what happened. It's like, no, you gotta, like tailor the house to this guy. And he offered such a huge amount just to basically bait out like the shitty realtors. Because, like, are you even trying to, like, facilitate his request, which, like, the human realtor dude clearly isn't? Right? So, like, for the story, it worked. Yeah, it's a little annoying that it came down to this final one, but, like, they made it work really well. So I'm gonna let it slide because it works so well, like, thematically in this. Also, like, goddamn, I'm so glad he wasn't just, like, stick up his ass, like, rich tycoon type dude. Because I was so fucking ready to go, like, giant anti capitalist rant if that was the fucking case. Right? Like, one asshole with like 500 million looking for a house. I'm like, oh man, just wait for Zero to go on this. But that's not what happened. So I'm like, oh, that's great. But then like Thouser shows up and he's like double. You know, like the comic you guys posted about like capitalism.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, is
Yeah,
that the
but
villain?
that's
And
like
this is literally the episode.
Yes, that is that has been the last few episodes,
No, I know, but like this one especially.
but more so specifically, yeah, 100% the villain is capitalism.
Yeah. And thank God he wants like a small house because I'm like, if he's like, oh yes, I already have more all this, but I want more, I'm like, you fucking piece of shit. Like it would have been the standard like thing of like what the fuck, man? Like why do homeless people exist when there's like 6 empty houses for every homeless person in the US? Like what the fuck is
Because of
going on?
capitalism.
Yeah, I know. But I would have done like the full rant for that, but hope a good thing he didn't do that. So that's
Well, like
great.
the thing I liked about this is it did go a little bit further into showing how detailed a human gear would be able to go towards tailoring, then being able to figure out and tailor to the needs of the client without the client coming out and saying it. Because literally all the client said is, my late wife died. I want a new house. I will have 500 million yen. Go. Like that was it. There was no other information, but because the human gear was able to look into more of him as a person, taking into account age, family, and like his encompassing, like for lack of a better term, his entire life, would be able to tailor what the customer would need based on even going into like morals and like the idea of family and togetherness and all that, and also going into like as he continues to get older, being able to maintain the house. Whereas all the human gives a shit about is, fuck it, I want the money.
500 million. Let's go.
Yeah.
How close
I
can
mean,
we get to that? 490,000 million or whatever.
Yeah, like 495 or something. Yeah, it was insane. Honestly, this is like the most annoying part about this realtor. Like he's got a really good fucking backstory, but he's such a dick as a character, right? Like that's the worst part. Um, and it's like the whole thing of like, oh, what's a house to you? Or like, why do you sell houses? I'm like, oh, that's never gonna come up. And then like somebody actually asked him the question. I'm like, you know what? That actually would make sense for this character to ask this question. And the realtor is just like, hey, I'm just trying to save up money to get like a big place to live because he grew up super poor, so he just wants to make it rich, make it big, basically, and his like imagination of what that is, like giant mansion or whatever. Whereas this guy's actually rich and is like, that doesn't do anything, bro. It's just an empty house.
Like, and given the fact that I've gone from having other people in my house to just myself, and I've got a fairly decent sized house, my God, it sucks alone. Like, I would prefer a smaller house at the moment. I'm going to need a bigger one later, so I'm not going to move, but that my rent's amazing for the size of my house, but like I get the idea of like I get both sides of it because I grew up poor too. Um, During high school, I lived in a motel, so with my entire family in one room. So it's like I get that aspect of fuck it, I want something big, but I also get like the realization he gets later on in the episode of, well, yeah, it was small, but it was a family, and it was that like that aspect of it. Like so, yeah, it's like that part of the story is like I was okay with the way it played out. It was just getting to that point. I'm just sitting there going, "You're a shit dick. You're a shit dick. I understand you, but you're a shit dick. You're a shit dick."
Right, I know. That's like the worst part because like he like you could really salvage this guy and like make him usable. Like the worst part is like they could have pretty much kept this whole story like just toned down how much of an asshole he is,
Right,
or
like
or make him more desperate because like he says like I can't lose to a human gear because I'm done in this business if I do, right? Like
right, like they
either
could have
focus on the desperation or tone it down. Go ahead.
right, like I like I said, it's like I understand like everything he did is like the issue that I ultimately had is he went way too far to just be a smarmy cheapskate asshole of I'm just gonna run everybody for as much money as I can. It's like, well, yes, he's trying to save it for places like his method for going about it to me just seems a little bit too extreme,
Yeah, I mean,
especially
I
for
think
somebody
that's
who truly actually did understand why he wanted a bigger house. It
right.
was only because he didn't have he all he had was that one room, so it's natural for him to want more. Is like, but for him to go to this extreme with with the way it's played out, it just seems wrong.
Yeah, you know what the worst part about this is though is like he was like already like the ace of the company. So in which case like he's already making money, so like he already has a house, right? Like what this character should have been is like a rookie who just got in. I mean, it would be weird for Zaya to bet everything on like a rookie, so that wouldn't really work for that character or that plot line, but his characterization of like wanting it so bad that he like destroys like all his morals like would
Like
make so much more sense if he was just like just getting into the business now.
here's where I feel like if they would have used Overkey, it would have been better. Is like because I'm sure it's gonna happen at one point. There's gonna be a cooking one.
Yeah, that's what I
What
was
and
thinking.
the whole thing is to prove that your Zaya specs are the best. That's
Oh
like
yeah,
given
yeah.
that's like going up taking an AI, putting him up and the way this episode plays out, putting him up against Gordon Ramsay with the fucking thing on. It doesn't fucking matter. It's unnecessary.
Right.
If you give
I
it
mean,
to a rookie, it would prove the ability of the Zaya specs, which is really what he's trying to prove.
yeah. I was gonna go the other way. Is like, oh, you get some like prodigy or something. But like, yeah, you're right. Like, it would make way more sense if they just gave it to like a catering student, right, or
Right.
something.
Because if they turn around and give it to Gordon Ramsay, it's an unnecessary thing to do. He's one of the best chefs in the world.
Right.
You're being that's just a dumb plan to prove that your great piece of
Superior.
technology is superior.
Yeah, because the annoying thing there becomes is like, okay, even if you win, that means like Gordon Ramsay needed a cheat to beat a robot, which means
Right.
like you as an average cook cannot beat this robot, which means it's cheaper just to buy the damn robot.
Right. Like
Right.
logistically speaking, this is dumb.
Yeah. Um, I mean, like marketing wise, it kind of makes sense because like maybe it's first generation, so it's super expensive, which means only like rich people could buy it or like well off people. So yeah, I don't know.
But it still comes down to a matter of you're trying to prove the tech. You don't prove the
Yeah,
tech with by giving it to the best people in that particular business. That doesn't prove anything.
I mean, Okay, so this is like kind of real world like coming into it because I mean their strategy kind of makes sense because you're just kind of getting influencers, right? So you're trying to be like, hey, look at this famous person. They're good at what they do. Look at our tech. They like it. You should buy it too. You know, they're trying to get influencers, which in the real world makes sense, but in the plot line of the show is stupid because
Right.
a
Like,
robot can
like,
do it better.
like in reality, yeah. That would be how you would
So
promote,
to
but this isn't necessarily to promote either.
the
It's a mixture of both,
this is play to win, but make it sound fair.
Yeah, that's a good point.
which it still doesn't sound fair by using somebody who's one of the best in the
World's
business
best.
and giving him a device to make him even better. That does to me that doesn't make it fair.
I mean,
Especially
to be
with this one particular because like with the AI not understanding exactly what a home is.
yeah, right. Like they're already at a disadvantage. They should be losing to begin with. Um, as you said, like the the problem here is that it's run by Zaya, right? So like the solution is okay, give it to a rookie, but the thing is like why would Zaya bet on a rookie? Yeah, like on a competition wise, like if it was televised and like everybody could see it, then it's like, oh look, even a rookie can be this good, right? Um then it would work, but this competition is not televised. And two is like you can give it sneakily to a rookie or something and be like, hey, look, this tech will help you improve. And then like the rookie becomes the ace or whatever. But then the problem with that is like Zaya would have to be kind of more of a secretive company to be doing that and just like secretly handing out this tech, like Gaia memory style, where they're like secretly dealing it. But like Zaya doesn't work like that. So like it's contradictory. And two is like Guy's personality is like I'm already the best. I want to be better. So he just gives it to people who are best, who are good, so he can show that humanity is better than robots. And like as you said, that's stupid for the average person. But from Guy's point of view, that's perfect because all he cares about is like the best of the best, right? Like he's got the Murakami thing going on.
The
Where
weak shall be purged.
Yeah, pretty much, basically. I mean, like, he's fucking Shocker, right? Or if he's not Shocker, he's like extreme capitalism. So basically the same thing. Um, I mean, like, it makes sense why it's Guy is giving it, but you're right. From a marketing point of view, it also kind of works. But like, yeah, giving it to a rookie would sell more, right? Also, like the cooking things, like, I mean, as long as like, I guess Hidan just has to invent the essence of flavor, they might win. Futurama.
Oh,
Have you seen that episode?
I don't know.
Like
Okay.
I've seen them all, but I don't. The references
Okay.
going over
So
my
like,
head.
Bender wants to be a cook, but he can't cook. So he goes and meets this like legendary cook who's like kind of living out like at the edge of like in some far off solar system, right? And he runs away, meets him, trains with him, comes back, right? And Bender like can't cook worth for shit, but he makes like one good meal and is like, "Oh, you did good. Here, take my secret weapon. It's the essence of flavor." Right? And then Bender comes back to like be in this like Iron Chef style competition against like this really famous chef. Because like Iron Chef style, and then like Bento wins, right? Because he has to use like the essence of flavor, and then you're like, oh, what the fuck is the essence of flavor? And then you kind of get this like, oh, like hopeful like message. I was like, oh, it was just ordinary water, and then you're like, oh, Bender's pretty good, like the professor says, right? And so you're thinking, oh, not bad, Bender, right? And then Professor then clarifies, yes, just ordinary water dosed with copious amounts of LSD. So that's the essence. So that's what I'm saying.
So that's why. So that's why everybody gets halos and wings in the fucking Iron Chef episode of Kabuto.
Oh my god. God damn. Oh, that's a good tie-in. Fuck.
Oh.
Anyway.
So,
Uh, hey, wait. We're talking about Guy and all that. We
yeah.
should probably address this comment from last week. By Rockman Fan 100. I guess like the only person who watches. Well, that's not true, but the only person who comments. So keep doing that. And their comment is the whole thing. The whole guy thing for me is AI are like humans that can do horrible things to each other. Like one bad day makes you want to murder someone. He says humans with robots are a liability. Yes, guys shows arc humans can do harm, but the ones without belts are not on mind control or hijack. Basically, he's saying confirmed by Izu. So basically, like the new robots are not hijacked; they're just going crazy. These are the AI's choice at the moment, powered by the art. Yeah. The hospital, and then next point. The hospital episode was great example. Sure, the robots are helping the humans, but they relied on them too much and making them weaker because of it. Yeah, so like when the robots went down, like the hospital wasn't able to cope. And then their third point is I don't care about Yua dying because she has barely did anything yet to show. Basically, there's no backstory or motivation to Yua. So there's like 3 points there. Right, like we talked about it a little bit at the beginning. So your guys' thoughts on the whole like guy's point that like AI or the robots are a liability now?
I
Like,
mean, they kind of are, but that was because Metsubo Jinro is going around hacking them. They're not doing it anymore. So now the only liability is that if you abuse them, they will turn on you against their will. And I'm still maintaining that they're not choosing to become evil. The Ark is infecting them wirelessly. It's taking their
because
thought that,
it's
yeah, they're having that initial thought of humans are evil, but then the Ark latches onto that and amplifies it inside of them.
like, I mean, it's pointed out this episode that they're being hacked wirelessly because that's why, like, after Smile is rebuilt, she says she has the new security program, and that if it works, they'll pass it around to all of them.
Right, that's what I was wondering. I was like, maybe did they pass the new upgrade to the carpenter dude?
We don't know.
We don't
Yeah,
know
because I'm like, if he got it,
because
then like
they
that upgrade
because
does nothing.
I would assume that they would, like, hey, no reason to wait. Like, get this going on all the human gear, and if it works, good.
I'm saying that they didn't only because Aruto specifically made the point of if this works for her, we'll give it to everybody else.
Or it could have been more of a generic statement of, oh, if that works, then roll it out to all of them.
Right, which to me kind of plays it off as a let's wait and see how this plays out thing. Let's make sure something works before we re-roll it out.
I was seeing as like, oh, we have that kind of thing. Like, oh, if that's a thing that works, then go for it. Kind of like, oh, we can do that now. Let's do it.
Right, and on that, it just depends on how sentient Izu is with wording, I guess. The one thing I did want to point out on this is the comment about the hospital episode with the human gears being relied on too heavily. This is 100% a thing that humans would do. 100%. And humans know this, and we decided to make a movie about it. It's called WALL-E.
That's a good point.
100%. That's what or iRobot or any of this other shit.
Better example.
Right, but the whole idea of humans are fundamentally lazy. I don't care what the fuck anybody else says. If a human can get out of doing something, they're gonna get out of doing it. especially
Right.
mundane shit.
If I have a choice
Well,
between doing something and doing nothing, I'll choose to do nothing.
yeah, I mean, to be fair, that's more of like a evolutionary adaptation where it's like laziness and kind of creativity is like the reason we get like lazy when we lie down is like it's a low energy mode, so we're not like blowing so many damn calories. Otherwise, you'd need way more food. Um, but it's also like you need improvements so you can be more lazy, which means you could use less energy, which means you live longer, right? Because you don't have to go out and hunt and die. So it's like this weird loop, evolutionary loop that humans, well, not humans, but like a lot of species, but like humans especially have. It's just because our society is so advanced, it's wacky how it plays out. Um,
Like, I mean, and this is something that's even effective like in nowadays. Of, for example, say you two have to go to the gas station for something. It's only a couple of blocks away from your house. Are you gonna walk or are you gonna drive?
yeah, I mean like drive, but that's
Right.
pretty much like most people. Um,
And that's kind of my point, is like, where is, if we get to the point where we have human gears that are cooking and cleaning and doing pretty much everything, the humans are gonna go, okay, cool, I ain't got shit to do.
I mean, the thing is
And
like
they'll
most
it it'll get I feel it'll get to a point of over reliance. I mean,
yeah.
because here's another example of that, and I think this is a better example. How many phone numbers do you remember?
Oh God, who fucking remembers phone numbers?
Exactly.
I
Because you
mean,
have a device that does it for you.
to be fair, most people back in the day had Rolodexes. Like fuck, I have to use a Rolodex like daily, so yeah, it's
But
not
there
like we
was
were
but there
all
was
super good.
but there were those people that you knew that you had, that you contacted on a regular basis. You memorized those phone numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, to be okay, yeah, that's a good point because it's like, oh, do you actually know your phone number? I'm like, no, for the most part,
Like,
I don't.
the only reason why I know my phone number is because I have to write it down on shit.
Yeah, pretty much me
I
too.
don't even know my girlfriend's phone number off the top of
Yeah,
my head. And back in the day, that would have never been an issue.
yeah, that's a good point. Um, I mean, okay, that's a good point. The other thing too, though, the counter argument to that is like, your thing is laziness. My thing is like, okay, yeah, a little bit of laziness, but okay. The other thing is like other countries kind of do have this thing going on. Like instead of AI, they just have like people, like a lot of. I was gonna say like service sector, but it's not the same thing as like North America. It's more like they're lower class of people, so they do all the menial work, which is fucking weird to think about, right? But it's like, yeah, countries still kind of work backwards like that. Especially with like countries with like lots and lots of people, it's like they don't need robots, they just need poor people, right? And then the other thing where they still work like that, but in this situation also is like, the hospital thing is like capitalism happened. You don't have to fucking pay a robot uh fucking wages, right? Like, oh, it broke down. Yeah, one of it broke down after like hundreds of hours. Like big fucking whoop,
That
right?
was
Like
literally
that's
the manga creators' whole thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's a good point.
Like,
I mean,
they don't
I'm
need to
especially
break, work them to death.
right, exactly. I'm like
Work them to death,
especially
and I
on
can sit on my ass all day.
yeah. Well, I'm especially on this because like this like focused on a medical question and it's like my god, man, like the fucking goddamn like provincial government is doing such a fucking shit job right now. Like they literally okay, so this is their genius plan, like, right? Like take money. It's like, oh no, we have to cut, which they don't, but they're gonna cut anyway. So the like nurses union has to like they took less wages. They took a wage freeze because they're like, all right, next contract we'll get a real contract negotiation. This time they're like, nah, you get a cut straight off. So like one, they didn't get an increase, they got like reductions, and then two, then they're like, fuck, wait times are too long, right? Their solution, more private industry, and two, uh doctors, the way they get paid got changed. So like they pretty much can't even work like because like you only get paid if you're actually seeing someone, so if somebody's waiting or if you're like traveling in between you get no pay. So like rural doctors pretty much are like, fuck, what do I do? I'm like basically like gonna go broke if I live in this stupid small town now, right? Because I got like school loans to pay and shit. So that's happening. So their magical solution to less wait times is what wait times? Don't even go to the doctor. And I'm like, oh, that is such a bad solution. Um, yeah, okay, we'll be here all day, discussing like the fast like 4 months of shit show that my government's been doing. But anyway, next point. Um,
Uh,
no, I mean on here, the Yua thing. Right. So they're saying like Yua's basically hasn't done anything. She's got like no motivation and no backstory. I'm like, yeah, honestly, I would have argued against that. But like the last couple episodes, I have to agree. Like she's barely even there, right? Like
The reason why I have an argument against that is because they're building up the her realization that she's on the wrong side of history.
I mean, I think she already knows that, but it's like
But
she's not
it's
doing
her
anything.
it's her coming to terms and then mustering the power to go, you know what, I'm out. Because like using capitalism, this is her paycheck.
Well, I
Like
mean,
literally, this is her having to walk away from her job, what makes her money, and in theory, what makes her damn good money.
it's not even the money thing. It's the thing that like Bowser is just gonna straight up murder you. Like,
Yeah, there's
there's
that
no
too.
doubt in my mind that like guy will just straight up murder you if he had to. Right? Like the only reason he can't kill Aruto is because Aruto is a public figure. Like he's a president of the rival company. Right? Like there's no guarantee that guy didn't kill like the previous president.
I
Um
mean, I mean, this is
it's
true.
unlikely, but it's possible.
I mean, he did cause the death of Arto's, Robo Daddy.
Yeah, the robot dad. Okay, like is that character back in the movie? I feel like he is, but I'm not sure.
From what I've read, he is in the crossover movie. So he did the technical Zero-One movie, the Zero-One Zeo movie, which is from the way it read, it's an alternate fucking timeline, anyways.
Yeah, that makes sense because I'm like, how the fuck do you tie Zeo or Zero-One into the? I mean, yeah, Zeo. Because I'm like Zero-One's such like a
Make him use his decayed powers.
yeah. Well, he doesn't have
no,
decayed powers.
okay.
Decayed
So the
energy.
plot of
His
that
power is
movie,
literally decayed.
the plot of the crossover movie is that there's like a fifth or a sixth time jacker, depending on if you count the fucking stage show.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay,
And
so they use their decayed powers, or
Like-
no, they use their
No.
Deno powers.
here's what
Wait,
happens.
no, we already had a fourth one.
They create the another Zero-One watch and retroactively steal Aruto's powers, and so Aruto steals one of the Metsubo Jinrai belts, and he henshins with that.
What the fuck? Okay, that's okay.
Well, that
that's
raises a
pretty
lot
deep.
of goddamn questions.
Yeah.
No one ever said those belts were exclusively usable by the Huma gear.
Yeah, I mean to be fair, I mean that's basically what the ride whatever the hell they're called. The new belts
Like
are.
but the belt they're still somewhat different. Like they're different enough that they have their own name,
Well, I mean, we don't. Yeah, that's a good point. I was gonna say
So
we don't know if Aruto is fully human,
we don't.
We
We have no
don't.
idea.
right? Like he could be Astro Boy.
I mean, there are 3 people who can be Astro Boy
Yeah, that's a good point.
because Wolf Boy had a surgery, and Thousand Island we're pretty sure is a fucking cyborg.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Well, I mean, then in that case, Wolf Boy is gonna be Atlas, but it's fine. Um, yeah. Any
If
more
he's not
thoughts?
Naki.
What?
Yeah, that's my conspiracy theory is that he's really Naki.
So Naki
Oh
is who
no,
we're
I don't.
calling the mysterious figure going around handing out the raid risers.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
literally the only human who has actually seen her
Oh
is
right.
Fu,
Yeah,
and the people who've been given the goddamn belts who only ever saw them when they were alone.
yeah.
And
I
then
was like,
Fu
what the
has that weirdo vision bullshit at the end of this episode.
Well, it feels like he got into a fight and he got his ass kicked, which seems to be a theme. Like, bring out your most powerful power-ups, and then like the random monster of the week kicks your ass. Like, what the? I mean, I know that's a writer thing, but like not just the grunts, man. It takes generally like one of the higher ups to do that.
Okay, so episode.
Okay, so we talked about the contest and selling the guy the house, and Aruto, when Smile is like, "Hey, I found a good house for him," Aruto says, "Yeah, but can you find a more expensive house?" And Smile just goes, "What for? This is already the best house for him."
And like that was a good point because it does show that Aruto understood that yes, this is something that is being done by profit, and it should be profitable. Which again makes sense. You're a company. That's the whole point of a company is to make money. So, but the fact that, but like through the way the episode plays out, I was like, it also fits for Aruto to go to go. You know what? Let's go with your decision. It's the best one. Fuck the money. Customer should be happy. Like it's a good point for him to actually have to kind of fight with what is actually needed.
Zero? Anything?
Um, the like the competition thing. Yeah.
Smile being confused about
Oh, why they need to make profit
why
anyway?
they need
Right.
to sell him a more expensive house than the one that he needs.
Right. Honestly, I thought that was a good question. Like, they don't really answer it because, like, Arta just thinks about it and he doesn't say anything. I would have liked him to, like, give a speech or something.
Well, I mean,
Um,
to be fair, we got the explanation for it at the end of the episode.
yeah, that's a good point.
Um,
Also, it's
but-
good that, like, he actually has to be confronted by, like, shit about being the president and, like, he asked, like, what's the president's job and stuff. So at least it's nice that they're like showing that like yeah, you got to kind of do the president thing also, not just be a writer. At least they're throwing them out there. Okay. Go ahead next.
So, so ultimately, with the Sentai team of carpenters,
Foremans, not carpenters. They were foremen.
they're referred to as both.
Well, specifically
Foreman.
what?
Yeah, I know. Like, where's the rest
Specifically
of the
during-
workforce?
Himself. He's managing himself.
All of them managing each other.
Well, no, one of them
guess.
is the leader of the group that manages the rest of them and gets extra treatment, even though he does little more work than they do.
Oh, good. good. Just like a real thing. It's like the whole thing of like officers won't work, but I'm like they're all officers, so like who's doing work? Are they all just sitting around like being like, ah yes. No, you can't order me to do shit. I'll just order the next guy with like you're the same rank. What are you gonna do? Okay. Oh man.
I'm wearing the red floral shirt. Fuck you.
Oh god. This kind of reminds me of like a. Oh, it's fine. I'll link that video to you guys later. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, yeah. I've got color red. Sentai logic means I lead. Even though that doesn't always work. Um, Geki Ranger Yellow is the leader. That's fine.
She was not the leader. That was in name only. She did nothing.
She was declared captain. They all
yeah.
agreed.
That was in name only, though. She did nothing as a leader. Like.
Okay. Okay. What about fuck, White
from
Original Ninja Sentai?
Kaku Ranger?
Yes.
Alright, so they actually had an episode about her questioning her position as leader, and what it came down to was something like, oh, she's the one that, like, brings them all together. So while Red ended up taking more of a leadership role throughout the series, like, her specific role as leader was just about, like, keeping the team together and such like that.
So what I'm hearing is she's the soccer mom with the minivan and the snacks. And
well, she literally was, though. She had the food truck that she drove up to their houses and was like, get in!
Oh
I mean,
I haven't watched this, but that's great.
Oh, that's totally what happens.
Like, it wasn't it a cat bus too?
I don't know. It was some kind of food truck where, like, she had to go and find them because she was the only one that knew about their ninja history, and so she had to go and pick them up and be like, "Hey, we're ninjas now. Get in."
Yeah, it's like, and she drove it and it teleported to the fucking cliff outside of the giant mansion Megazord.
Oh my god, this is like the dumbest sounding thing and so great too. It's like she just rolls up in like a cat food truck. And it's like, get in, losers.
Get in, losers. We got monsters to fight.
You're ninjas now. Deal with it. Oh my god. It's so stupid. Oh, fuck.
I mean, that is equivocally the first, 3 episodes?
Oh,
yeah, pretty much.
That's awesome.
And then Black, he comes in from America because he's actually an American ninja who actually speaks English. And, like, so for the next few episodes, they have a running gag about how he doesn't know how to speak Japanese that well.
Oh, nice. I mean, at least somebody used it as opposed to fucking cowboy ninja.
Yeah, no. Jiraiya pulled it off way better.
God, it was bad in Ninja.
Because Jiraiya's actor could actually speak English, so he was actually fluent in it, unlike Star Ninja's fucking English.
Oh god, was it as bad as the Shin Godzilla?
Oh no, it's worse than Shin Godzilla.
Okay, that's something then. Oh man, Shin Godzilla's a piece of work.
Like, a good portion of his English is literally the word and then just butchered random words. It's one of those like things where Ninja's like, he knows way more Japanese for somebody who literally lived in America his entire life.
That's a good point. I mean, to be fair, like people speak Japanese all over the world, so that's fine. But
not like that.
Not like that. Yeah, that's a good point. Anyway, we're like way off topic now.
Yeah.
Of course we are. It's Ryder.
So basically, the old dude chooses the cozy shed in the woods because it tailors to his needs. As opposed to just, here's my money. So Aruto takes the realtor aside to try and talk to him about, like, hey, maybe you should tailor houses to specific needs. Smile, the humor gear taught me that even. And then they get into a fight because it's Ryder, and the bad guy can't admit they're wrong on the first go.
Right. He's got to get his ass beat first.
Then he admits he's wrong, but in that he considers the challenge a loss, but it doesn't matter because Zaya still raised more profits, so Thouser is taking the win.
I lost the battle but won the war. Like, the way that this ended, I'm perfectly okay with. It was the get in here part that I had a problem with. Because, like I said, like, it's just an extreme way to go about his goal of, I want a big house. Then come to the, go through all of this shit and then go, oh yeah, no, yeah, I was wrong. Makes sense. I don't need a big house. Which, again, morally, a kid's show, so everybody's got to learn a lesson. And I'm fine with that. I'm perfectly fine with the lesson. It was just the get in here part.
Yeah, like, I mean, it makes sense that he like reformed and shit. Like, it's really annoying that he was such a dick. Like, they really needed to tone his ass down. Because he's like almost irredeemable, and then he like redeems himself. I'm like, well, this does make sense why he would change. Also, he says like the whole thing of like, I can't really, like, I can't admit defeat here because the industry is in and stuff, which makes sense. But like, the episode doesn't play that up at all. So like, they should have fucking played that up a little bit more.
Like, it's borderline comes across as a cop out.
So here's my issue with the resolution of this. And I'm not upset that they lost this specific challenge. My problem is from a storytelling narrative. This is a 5 challenge sequence. But if this is a best 2 out of 3, then either Aruto is going to lose the 3rd challenge and Zaya takes over, which would be an interesting storyline to go down, or Aruto is going to win the next 2 in a row, and we already know that's going to happen. Because if we're going to get to the 5th challenge.
Like, and then that's the point where it's like, I was amazed that they had it go to this point of it being 2-0 already, Zaya. Because I felt that this would have been better played if it was more even across the board. It would have raised attention that there's a possibility that he may lose beyond the, well, we're going to be fucking obvious and just have Aruto come in with the clean sweep at the end.
Well, I mean, technically, like, what's even the point if Zaya wins the next one? But I guess it's not best out of 5. It's just guy wants 5 out of 5. But yeah, I was not expecting the stakes to go like 2 in favor of Zaya. Like that's unexpected. But I mean, it does ratchet up the tension because like if they don't get a win, they're screwed. Especially in the next one. Also, like, a robot should be way better at being a lawyer than any human.
Yeah, they're a walking fucking lie detector.
Right. Well, that's not the issue in this situation, though. The issue is that the verdict has kind of already been decided. Is this person a criminal? There's an objective answer to that statement. It doesn't matter how well you present your case in the end, because if they reach the actual conclusion, then there is no actual winner there.
Right. I mean, the funniest thing too is right, like, yeah, you can be like, okay, an AI can do the thing, but I'm like, realistically, an AI, if your client is clean, then your AI, then you just need a good detective AI to prove here's the facts. My client's good. If your client is guilty, which they will never do, because then the case becomes like try to get a guilty person off.
Right. Free, that's what I was about to say.
Which Toei will never do. That
like
would be an
it's
interesting
like
test.
this guy is either criminal or he's not, and you're using so this system of like whoever wins the trial is the better in a courtroom doesn't fucking count. This isn't a goddamn Phoenix Wright game.
Right. I mean, like maybe they're going for like go like who can win the jury, but again, the conclusion there becomes your your client's a criminal. You're trying to make the jury be on his side, but like Toei will never do that, right? So like it doesn't make any sense.
And of course, Suguri's not going to lose. Come on, the president of Earth is not going to lose this contest.
The president, what?
What are you talking? Oh, what? You
The
said
lawyer, the Human Gear
Yeah,
lawyer,
yeah,
is fucking
it's-
Suguri,
yeah, but
the
you said
president of Earth.
oh, we thought you said birth.
No,
No.
Earth, E-A-R, E-Arth.
Your dirt. There you go. Yeah, like from what?
Kyuranger.
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 Oh, that's right. Zero doesn't watch Sentai. No, he's Ho Soldier. He's the 12th member of Kyuranger.
And is literally the
Oh.
president of Earth.
Nice.
Twice
Okay.
elected.
Isn't it 3 times?
Oh, he's the other red one. Okay.
Yeah,
he's
he's
the other red
third
one.
Yeah, no, Oh no, he's twice elected, and then he vows to become the 3rd one.
What the
Because
Oh
like,
my god. What are
he-
you from Bolivia or something? Oh my
he-
god.
so he was the president, but then Kyuranger happened, and he had to become the president again, and then he had to step down during the movie, and now he's just like, I'll just run again.
Yeah, fuck term limits. I mean, to be fair, like most countries don't have term limits. Anyway, yeah, that's interesting. Good to see a tokusatsu actor get more work, I guess. So that's cool.
And then, based on that, it's like, Komiya Arasa? Or Arisa? Or how the hell you pronounce that? Is Yellow Buster from Go Buster. And she's a victim in a fraud case. Which, yeah, the court case is for fraud.
Okay, like I could kind of see a use for arguing there, but I'm like, again, this is not
Either
an
you committed fraud
objective
or you
thing,
didn't.
right?
Like yeah, you're right. There's no objective on anything.
Well, I mean,
It's-
no. I mean, there's no subjective argument here. It's an objective conclusion. Like you're a fraud or you're not.
Right. It's like this isn't something that I was a better lawyer. It's like no, you either got a guilty person off or you didn't. One of the two.
Right. Like the only way this could work is like if a con artist was framed for fraud. So like, they're like, well, technically they still did criminal shit, but like they weren't bad in this case. So like, your job is now to make somebody like that clear somebody like that's name, but like Toei would never do that, right? Or like modern Toei would never do that. So it's like there's nothing interesting here, right? Like this. Okay, here's the biggest thing, right? Like, why is Kitaoka from Ryuki interesting? It's because he's a corrupt lawyer, right? Like that's his whole thing is like he doesn't give a shit if you're a criminal or you're not. You
Like-
pay him, he'll get you off.
Straight up, the first thing he says to Shinji is like, "So, did you do it? I'll still defend you regardless."
Right? And I mean, to be fair, that's like a fair point because that's what a lawyer would ask. Because like, yeah, dumbass, if you fucking did it,
Tell
need
me
to
so
know.
I can help you.
Right,
Right,
exactly.
like,
I don't want you
because-
to get blindsided by this shit.
Because, like, to be fair, yeah, that's still how a lawyer is supposed to work. A defense attorney, regardless of whether or not their client is guilty or innocent, their job is to get them off. That's their job.
Right, and like you can't really force them to talk because like they have like like lawyer-client privilege, and that's why they always tell the damn cops to piss off whenever they show up because like the cops can't be listening.
Like,
Because that'd be entrapment. right?
Where that whole moral aspect of it comes into play is that's when deals start getting made between
Dude.
to that, yeah, because it's like, well, if your lawyer knows you're guilty, then yeah, he's going to try to get you to take a deal.
Especially in Japan, like
Oh yeah.
holy fuck,
Most
man! Like the
cases in
Japanese system,
Japan are guilty just because they're likely going to
confession.
be found guilty anyways. So most people will plea to a lesser crime for so that they get a lesser punishment.
Yeah, there's that, and then there's also the thing of like Japan has really fucking shitty like human rights laws for prisoners. So um, like they have like a 90, what is it, like 95 to 98% conviction rating, and it's got like a um, oh God, like most of them are confessions, quote unquote confessions. Like holy shit, is this shit show? Like okay, you guys keep talking. I'll tell.
Like
I'm just gonna look up a video real quick.
yeah, it's like the Phoenix Wright thing where all the prosecutors are like, I have 100% win rate. I always get a guilty verdict. It's like, that's kind of too real though, because in Japan, most court cases are found guilty. That's just a fact.
Like, and
Yeah, and
like
then
it
plus the other thing too is like Japan has this real bad habit of like you're convicted but you're not guilty, but and then like even if you get off the case, people just treat you like you're guilty because you went to a court case,
Yeah, that happens
right?
in
So like
America
that's
too.
the thing. That's why we have two different words. Like convicted means like or like suspected or convicted. That just means you just went to fucking trial, bro. It didn't mean you did it, right? Like in Japan, like it'll fucking destroy your reputation. That's the whole thing of the fucking like Yakuza games, right? Like the actors who were like suspected of having like gang ties or drug use thing, and they pretty much like wiped them out from the franchise, even though they were both found to be innocent, pretty much.
Ah, jeez, that's shitty.
like
Yeah,
and all of this just makes the next challenge is just highly suspect.
Right, because Bowser's the one picking all the challenges. He's making all the decisions. He's not giving Arto any choice. It's like, you either agree to my terms or I buy you out right away.
Right. Like he's strong arming them into it, which, yeah, that gives Thousand Island that fucking advantage of, he's to basically warp this to his plan. If he's picking everything, then what the hell can go wrong?
Yeah, like, if did he pick this court case specifically? Did he screen it ahead of time? Does he think he already knows the outcome?
yeah. I mean, of course he does because he calculates everything. Also, like this is real fucked up shit because like why is a private company interfering in a legal proceeding,
Because
right?
capitalism. He has the money
Because
to do it.
capitalism. I know, right? I mean, like, I get it. Like in America, this is more of a thing, but like most of the rest of the world, like you're not allowed to get this close. But then in Japan, it's fucked up. Anyway, I found the video. So the channel's called Rare Earth, and the video is called "Why Every Japanese Criminal Is Guilty." So watch that. It's freaking great. It's 8 minutes long, 8.5. But here's like the number one comment on that video. It says this legal system is a total joke and is inhumane to the extreme. I was released from Japanese custody last week. Charges were dropped by the Japanese court. The Japanese system is not justice at all. This is in the comments of the video, by the way, not in the video. Um, it is all based around confessions, intimidation, cultural shaming, and perceived remorse. Okay. People from where I live, the UK, and across the Western world take a look at Japanese criminal stats on a piece of paper and say, well, the Japanese are doing it right, and we should implement their system, not knowing how many holes there are in their system and what a disaster it could be. confessions are judged as the king of all evidence within Japan, which is reflected through all the basically all the proceedings, practices that the police, prosecutors, courts, and the system in general use regardless to obtain it. They start from the second you are within their custody. There is no access to an attorney during an interview. This is just the starting point, people. The interview is not recorded. Up to 36-hour long police interrogations, which are conducted with you tied up to the chair with no food or sleep. Uh, you'll be screamed at, insulted, threatened, humiliated, and physically abused. After this stage, people are then put into a detention center within the police station. There is four walls and a floor and a hole in the ground for shitting. Welcome to your new home that is big enough to fit 4 people but has 6 in. Um, you have no furniture or bed. The temperature will be so cold that you go into survival mode. You are unable to speak to anyone within your cell. English is not allowed to be spoken. You are fed on 1,300 calories a day, which is like barely above fucking starvation right there. By like 100 calories, like fuck that. You don't see sunlight or go outside. You are unable to see, hear, or have communication with your family. Access to basic medications such as treatment for severe diarrhea or severe vomiting will be purposefully restricted unless you are actually dying. This period lasts 23 days at least. All the while, the police and prosecutors are working, quote unquote, on a case to bring forward to the judge. So they don't even have a case right now. They don't even have a conviction, what like a crime you're charged for at this point. In reality, they're doing all they can to physically, psychologically, and physically break you into confession, confession, but meaning confessing. Once they have it locked down at this, okay, once they have this, it is looked at as the greatest piece of evidence, and you will be behind bars and become one of the 99% of the other people. Right? Because, like, they've got such an insane conviction rate. So that's the thing. Right? You know how in, like, Ryuki and shit, they're like, oh shit, food, this is like a real cop drama. It's like, yeah. Because they, hold off feeding you while they're interrogating you. You've got like no lawyers, no anything, and this is before you go to trial, right? Like you've got fucking nothing. So basically, they're gonna force you to confess to something. In the meantime, they'll basically just look at something to charge you with. So there's that one. I think there's like more where they explain like what the hell they were charged for. Oh yeah. Just a clarification. So that's all the shit that they went through. This is what they were charged for, or what happened. I had 4 painkillers in a rucksack for sustained injury. I was told that they can detain me in case it was something such as meth tablets. Once the lab test showed it was clearly not illegal narcotics, they then tried to make me sign a written statement in Japanese confessing to an importation charge. I admire the Japanese lady who represented me. Without her, I would not have been able to gather all the evidence needed to have all the charges dropped. Even though I knew inside I didn't do anything to warrant the treatment I got. I was near a point of signing the confession statement to just at least get certainty and to write to my family, which can only be done once you are found guilty and moved to a proper quote unquote prison, if that makes sense. So yeah, you've got like basically your one phone call, you got no phone call. You barely got a lawyer.
You don't
And
got
the
a
whole thing
lawyer.
of like him with the 4 painkillers thing is like Japan really fucking doesn't like drugs, quote unquote drugs. and like they don't like anything imported. So here's the other thing. Like later on, is like, why did they even charge you? Is like, didn't the um like border security or basically like the airports check? And it's like, yeah, they did multiple times, at different airports and everything. Like the airport guys in Japan said it was okay, so I thought it was okay. And he says he's been there for a while, like somewhere it's in there, like a couple weeks or something, and it was perfectly fine. And then all this shit happened. So it's like, yeah, man, like the Japanese system is fucking rough, especially if you're a foreigner. Because if something goes down, the first thing that the Japanese cops do is look for a foreigner. Because you got like no representation to back your ass up, right? So it's like, oh, easy conviction. It's the whole thing of like anybody will do as long as you can blame someone. Like, oh man, Japan is fucking rough. Anyway,
So, yeah, the Japanese court system is fucked.
yeah, I mean, especially considering like Phoenix Wright is like a very famous Japanese property, but it's super unrealistic to how Japanese courts work.
Oh yeah, no. Most trials will end in a guilty verdict.
Right.
I
Not
I
even
bet
that. It's like you can't. The way he does the lawyer shit, like that's not how the courts work. It's because as soon as somebody just is like, "Here's the written confession," like you're the defense attorney. What are you gonna do? Right? It's like an insane uphill battle at that point. There's a like if you watch the video again, the video is why every Japanese criminal is guilty by the channel Rare Earth. They talk about like a judge who knew that the guy he was sentencing basically didn't do anything, but because like everybody else was like, well, he confessed and did all this shit, um and so he's like, technically I feel like he didn't do it, but like culturally everything else says he does, so I'm just gonna put him on death row for 30 years and then confess that he fucked up, by which time that guy died. So like, yeah, it's fucking rough, man. Like
So,
again, that's why like, how they're like, why does like every like Toei Tokusatsu show the cops to be like such asshole or like completely incompetent? Yeah, this is why. Right? Like Japan doesn't trust their cops. Or I mean, they trust their cops, they just don't trust the process enough. Um and then like again with the whole doctor shit, like we talked about in X8 of like how the medical like universities and stuff like fuck over students, especially like female students, and like the like ridiculous amount of conditions for taking exams. Um, right, Japan looks great from the outside. It's got like real fucked up shit that like most of the world moved past like decades ago, but Japan still just keeps doing the old shit.
so next week's challenge is a court case trial. And honestly, what are they going to follow that up with? What would the last two trial challenges even be?
honestly at this point, who the fuck knows?
Well, like you said, like one could be cooking, but like,
But again, the court case feels like it should be last.
It feels like
right.
it should be fourth or fifth.
I mean, technically, if Zaya wins, it will be the last because they get a majority win. But I
Right.
don't feel like Guy would just stop at
Okay,
3.
okay. But so I'm interested in the timeline where Zaya gets the third victory in a row and just fucking buys Hiden out. But if instead Guy decides to keep going just to put the pressure on, I'm not sure how I feel about that because that tells me that like Aruto will pull out some 11th hour win on the final challenge, and Guy will be like, alright, fine, I won't buy your company out, even though I won every other challenge up to this point.
Yeah. Um, well, no, that's not gonna happen. Like I don't feel like guys are gonna be like, well, I concede, because like he would never do that. He's shocker, bro. Like shocker mentality. He would rather fight it out. Like yeah, the only way that wins is like the final contest is like Thouser versus Zero-One.
Oh yeah, the rematch is gonna be the fifth challenge for sure.
Yeah. So like that's the only way he doesn't take over the company is like Zero and just wins. So Thouser is like, and then Arto's like, "What are you gonna do? I'm just gonna kick your ass if you come out near my company again." Right? Because he's like a president needs to be strong. Like that's the only way I can see this happening. I mean, like, yeah, the counter argument is like maybe the vice president pulls something out of his ass, but I'm like unlikely. It could happen, but super unlikely.
Also, on a side note, we ain't seen him in a minute.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Um, shit, man, like we barely got like Guy and Yua in this. I mean, it's nice that Fua's getting storyline, but like everybody else kind of disappeared. To be fair, like if he comes back and like assists in some like last minute fashion to save the company, worth it. If he just disappears and then re-shows up again, like fuck it, just throw away his character. It's not worth it because he's done nothing in the show.
All right. So thanks for joining us tonight, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow to do the Ryu Soldier movie, and next Tuesday for Ryu Soldier's main series. So thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, everyone. Sorry this was a little rambly, but good episode. Hopefully the next one is good, even though real life Japan court system sucks ass.